Hi everyone, my name is Christine Terhune and I play the viola with the New Jersey Symphony Orchestra. Actually, I've played with the orchestra for about 43 years now. I started when I was 10 in school and I took lessons. The way I actually found the viola, or where maybe the viola found me, was that my mom saw an advertisement in the newspaper for a cello. So when we went to the house, the cello had already been sold. However, the woman there said, hey, you know, I've got a viola that my child has grown out of. Why don't you give it a try? You know, you'll always be needed as a violist because most people play the violin. So I tried it, and my mom said, well, hey, she needs a teacher. And the woman said, I know somebody. And so I had a teacher and a viola. And unlike most people, I started right on the viola because of that. So I grew to really love it because of those deeper, richer tones. I love the violin sound, but I really love the viola, the richness of the viola. It's like a honey. If it were a taste, it would be like honey. So I really love the viola. And I thought today we would talk about several things. Right from maybe some of the most basic things like posture all the way through shifting and vibrato. So depending on what you think you might need a little bit of help with, we may cover some of that today. Posture. There are two ways I think that you can sit. One, the way I really like to sit is, especially because I play for long periods of time, is I like to sit in a chair with my back up against the chair. So a chair with a back. That supports me, and then the rest of me can kind of relax. And then I let my right leg go down a little bit so that my bow doesn't hit it. If you sit on this edge of your seat, that's fine. Just make sure that you put a little bit of an arch in your lower back, and that helps hold your posture nice and upright. And again, put your leg down a little bit so that you don't hit the bottom of the bow onto your leg. So you can kind of find that and adjust it. Let's talk about the left hand of the viola. One thing that I think is important is if you could just stand up, and I'll stand up. I might be out of the picture a little bit. If you just stand up and relax your hands next to you, and then take a look at the way your hand looks, you'll see that your thumb kind of points to the middle of your hand because that is relaxed. That's not. That is. So just relax. A relaxed hand, your thumb is going toward the center of your hand. And that's really important for both hands to become aware of. When you're talking about the left hand, think of putting your thumb between your first and your second finger. And I think that's more or less the way your hand is relaxed. So that's a good rule of thumb. So rather than stretching it back or putting it too high or really low, just on the back of your thumb, back of your nail, and somewhere between 1 and 2, and it will float depending on what you're doing. But that gives you the ability to stretch, which you need to do on the viola. Okay, so that's where your thumb is. As far as your wrist goes, you've probably heard this a lot, but you don't want to be a waiter and carry like you're carrying a tray around. Think of your wrist being more or less straight, not one extreme or the other. So thumb between 1 and 2 and a straight wrist. Let's see, the fingers. Pretty much we want our fingers over the board. So that will allow, having your thumb in the middle, that'll allow putting all 4 fingers down on all of the strings, and even in the higher positions being able to reach. So that's why you want to be aware of your thumb and where you've got it. Let's talk about the right hand, the bow. As far as the thumb goes, again, your thumb wants to be sort of going toward the center of your hand. So when I hold my bow, my thumb is pretty much in the same position, somewhere between 1 and 2. The way I do that is I put my thumb right next to that little bump. It's not inside. Looks like it's supposed to be there, but it's really not inside that area of the frog. It's right next to the frog, and on the tip, right on the tip, kind of halfway under the hair. So it looks like that, and it's bent for springiness. Then I put my middle finger and my 2 middle fingers more or less opposite my thumb. My index finger, put the stick between the 2 joints there. And then the pinky, or the little finger, right on the end, right on its tip, on the top of the bow. This is the top of the bow. So that everything is curved and rounded for springiness. So that gives you the most ability to do all of the different bowings that we need to do. A few exercises that you could do to get your fingers to feel more in control is what I call the spider crawl, where you get above the wrapping here and just work your way like little spider legs all the way. I'm going to do it pretty quickly. You can do it slower. All the way to the tip. And then when you get to the top, you have to come down. So push your thumb down and then catch up with all those little spider legs. Get them all moving. Push your thumb down. Catch up with your fingers. Push your thumb down. Catch up with your fingers, and all the way down to here. And that way you have to be able to manage all that weight of the bow. That's a good one. Another one that can help you find your fingers, so to speak, is to lift each finger. So hold your bow up and down like this. Lift each finger independently like that. Each finger 4 or 5 times, keeping all the other ones in place, just lifting each finger. And that can really help. You can even lift the outer 2, see if you can still hold it with curved fingers. Yeah, it's a good one. Sometimes we have a very little time to get from playing arco with a bow to pitzing with our finger. So what you might do is practice going from your normal bow hold to pitz, holding the bow like that, because sometimes we hold it like that. Arco, pitz, arco, pitz. And that way you get a really good idea of how well your muscle memory is on where each finger goes. So that's also good. Another one is what I call windshield wipers, holding the bow straight out and just turning your bow over as if these are windshield wipers. I guess it's really slow rain. And just slowly go back, really concentrating on your positions of each finger and making sure each one is curved. And again, you don't have to squeeze. It doesn't take strength, it just takes balance to hold the bow well. So that's what I would suggest you do to improve your bow grip. I thought of another good thing for you to decide whether you're holding the bow too tightly or not. If you put your bow hold up above the wrapping here, so you're just on the wood part, put your hand about 10 inches underneath and just drop the bow. Okay, I'm just lightening up my hand hold, my bow hold, and I'm dropping it into my hand. And if you can do that, you're just letting the bow slide between your fingers. That means that you're holding the bow with very little tension. So that's a really good thing. So that's a nice way to test the difference between hanging on for dear life with straight fingers and kind of tense and pushing and squeezing and gripping, and just a light hold. It really doesn't take that much to to hold the bow and be able to do everything you need to do. Another thing I want to talk about is how to hold the viola. This is the right hand again. One thing, I have a shoulder rest on the back of my instrument. I've had all different kinds of shoulder rests. This is a regular shoulder rest. This is foam from packaging, you know, just something that came in the mail, because I felt like I needed a little support here. You can use packaging foam. You can use a folded up washcloth, you know, the kind of sponges that don't get that don't dry hard. They stay soft whether they're wet or dry, that kind of sponge. Anything like that that you can rubber band on there to give you a little bit of at least traction. If you don't like the height, because people have different size necks, if you don't like the height, then it's good anyway to something that will give you some traction there, because this is very slippery. So you want to give yourself something to hold on to. That really will improve the way you hold the instrument, and also you can begin to relax if you're not struggling holding up the instrument. Let's see. Another thing just to keep in mind, if you have a good solution for under here for holding up your instrument, you shouldn't have any space between your neck and the viola. So put it nice and snug up against your neck. Bring down your jawbone here, right in the center, in the bowl of your chin rest. And that will give you a grip that you can hold on with. You know, if you can text your friends, you're in good shape, okay? So consider that. I also wanted to talk a little bit about string angles, getting from one string to the other clearly. So what I want to just draw your attention to is when you are crossing strings, notice what's really happening. The only thing that's really changing in your arm is the level of your upper arm, not your lower arm. So if you get in the middle, and on the A string, you've got about a right angle, 90-degree angle of your arm. And when you go to the D string, I'm lifting only my upper arm, like that. Nothing changes down here. Now when I go to the next string, G, same thing, just this is going up. And then this. So it's really a function of your upper arm going up and down like that. That way, when you get to the C string, you don't look like this. Okay, you still want to look like this. So, A, lift, lift, and lift. You notice this all stayed the same. Okay, so that's a really good thing to become aware of. As you practice that, you can always practice an extra thing, as many things as you can think of at the same time. You can make sure that your bow grip is what we talked about. Everything stays in place, and everything is curved. Some of you have the kind of joints where it's straight here and curved here. That's fine, as long as you have a something bent. Okay. I think of shifting a little differently on viola than I do violin. Violin is lighter and everything is closer, and it just feels a little bit less dramatic to me. On the viola, you're further out and your arm is further under. You have a longer distance to go. What I really love about what I'm going to tell you is that it's true for violin and viola in the sense that if you look at the viola, you've got the neck here, and you also have what I call the corner, this neck where the neck meets the body. It's like a corner, and that's pretty much where third position is. And I use that as a guideline. So when I shift, I'm going for what it feels like, because a lot of playing is feeling. So when I move from first to third, I'm looking for that corner. So remember when we talked about the thumb placement on the viola in first position, it's between 1 and 2. When I go to third position, same thing, somewhere between 1 and 2. Do we have to adjust a little bit? Yeah, probably, but it gives you a very good idea of where third position is, rather than moving your hands somewhere on the board and then putting your fingers down. You don't, in the air somewhere, you really don't know where you are. If you go to the corner, you know where you are every time. So what I suggest is thinking of those landmarks, thinking thumb, as I like to call it. The first thing I would do, I have, when I teach shifting, is the slow shift and then the as-is shift, the way you would want to hear it. So the slow shift, basically, we're going to do this first without any bow. I get into first position on the D string, and I move my hand up. If I go straight up, my hand bumps into this little bump right here. So we need to just pull our wrist, or pull our elbow under towards the center of your body a little bit. So what I do is I put my right hand on my elbow, and when I move up, I pull my arm or my elbow in a little bit, just a little bit. So I'm moving up, and I just pull in a little bit. And that reminds me to not bump in to this over here. You don't want this, you want that. And that allows me to get all of my fingers over the board. And for viola, that's really important, especially if you're up in third position on the C string, on the fourth finger. That's a really long way away. So you need to have your hand and your elbow under, or at least towards the center of your body more, okay? So what I would do is I would just get used to each string. Thumb between your first and second, all four fingers just lightly on the string, and your right hand on your elbow, and just slowly move up. And you notice I'm not wiggling around. It's all straight. Just moving your arm, okay? First, then you can do maybe first finger, second finger, third finger, fourth finger. And don't forget, it's all right to lean against the instrument. You don't have to hold it away. So make the connection so you feel the landmark. All right, you're going for how it feels. You want to feel that corner. Allow yourself to connect with the body of the instrument, and you'll feel it. It doesn't change. So that's a really nice way of finding third position. The way I would practice it now with the bow is I would do, let's say, first finger on the D string, and I want to go to G, which is third position. So I would do the slow way. So I'd start like this. Nice and slow. And I'm remembering to bring my elbow in slightly so I miss that bump. Okay? So that's what I would do maybe on each string. In, right? And now on the C string, you have to come in even a little more. If you notice, your elbow is coming under a little bit more to miss that bump. I had to come in just a tiny bit more. So you have to become aware of that. Each string is a little bit different. Now, coming down, there are two ways to come down. Thumb first or your whole hand together. They're both fine, but when I practice, well, let's say I'm really high up and I need to find third position, I always put my thumb back first because it's like a leader going out, finding the third position, and then I snap my hand back into that place. And it, especially in viola, it's very, very helpful. Again, it's feeling. Where is it? And your thumb can really help you do that. So I would suggest that you practice like this. When you're up in third position, I'm on the D string, first finger, third position. I play the note. I just reach back with my thumb and I slide my hand into a position. It looks like this from here. Play, thumb, shift. The other way is everybody together. Everything together. You can do either one. I like putting my thumb back a lot. Sometimes I don't need to. It just depends. But let's so you know how to put that back. Practice it the slow way first, like this. Thumb, think in, elbow in. Now play, thumb, shift. Okay, so I would practice it on each finger, each string, and that gives you, like, one day you could do just the D string, all 4 fingers. The next day you could do the G string, all 4 fingers, and you get a real sense of where third position is. The other shift is, of course, the as is shift, the way you would want to hear it. So this is the same exact thing, but just quick, light, but quick. Okay, and I would do the same thing. Each finger on each string, maybe 1 string each day, something like that. And that gives you a real landmark of where third is and a sense of security. The last thing that I thought I would talk a little bit about is vibrato. There are 2 kinds of vibrato. There is arm vibrato and there is hand vibrato. Most violinists just use arm vibrato. Most violists use both. I think because the instrument is a little lower, we have a wider range. Violinists have a shorter vibrato. The motion is very short and fast, and violists do that as well, but also a little slower because it sounds better in the lower tones. So we have a little bit to think about in terms of how to produce that. When I think of vibrato, it's a color. It's like an artist's palette of colors. It's personal what color you want to choose. It's personal what you want to hear. What sounds beautiful to you? Faster or a little slower or medium? That's where the artistic part comes in playing an instrument. Those are the kind of choices that are creative and really, really fun. So you want to have a range. When I think about how to produce a vibrato, I think about there's a motion that's back and forth, and there's a motion that's up and down. So let's just talk about how to think about the back and forth. This, I'm going to put my bow down because this really is left hand for now. So I'm getting into third position. I've got my thumb in the corner. I've got my third finger because it's a nice middle finger that is kind of a little easier to handle. I'm letting my hand just rest up against the instrument. And when I think of that motion back and forth, it's following the string. It's following the direction of the string, your hand. So let me go from a couple of different directions. I'm going to roll, maybe this direction first. I'm going to roll my hand, my whole hand, not just my finger, my whole hand this way, and then rock it back as far as it will go, the whole hand. Roll forward. You see how from my wrist up is going together. It's not just a finger, it's a whole hand vibrato. So it's the whole thing, and I'm going to the extremes. It's extreme. It's not what you will normally use. So, but you just want to get your hand moving. The whole hand. You notice I'm saying hand, not finger. Whole hand. So go to the edges. Do you see how I'm rocking back and forth? I'm following the direction of the string. I would do that on your fourth finger, the same thing. You see how my whole hand goes? Then my second finger, and then my first finger. The whole hand is rocking. I would do it in that order because 3 and 4, you by design, you have to take your whole hand with you. It's a little easier to get the idea of it. Okay, so that's going this direction. The other direction is up and down. So what I call it, I call it pinch release. But have you ever gone to it? Just imagine that you're going over to a stove that is hot, but you don't know that it's hot. So your hand is relaxed, and you touch the stove, and then you quickly pull your hand back because it's hot, and it's a surprise. That's the kind of motion I want you to think of. Very relaxed, and then a quick motion. So it's almost like a pinch and a release, okay? So I'm putting my third finger on the string, but I'm not pushing down. Now, that feeling of a quick motion, almost a pinch release kind of thing. Fingers on the board, I'm pushing it down and releasing it really quickly, like that. All right, so just rest on top of the string. Then when you're ready, very relaxed, push down and then release, very quick. Okay, so your finger's not leaving the string, it's just pushing down and releasing very quickly, like that. And I would do each finger. 3, 4, 2, 1. The order doesn't matter so much on this one. Then, same thing, but start out the same way, but then go faster and as fast as you can and see how quickly you can go. So start out slowly, pinch, release, or pinch, relax. Do like 2 or 3, and then gradually, as fast as you can go, and then shake it out. So you're practicing a very quick motion, up and down. And that's just to give you that feeling of the 2 different motions. Now, to get a nice, beautiful sound, you would mix it together, kind of like you were swishing hot and cold water together to get warm. Same thing, you want to take a little of each and make it beautiful, what sounds beautiful to you. So to do that, again, no bow. Now this time I will push the string lightly to the string, and I'm more or less, you can almost just feel the bottom of your hand attaching to the instrument, and just rock and roll your hand back and forth, thinking up and down, that pinch release as well, because that will help you go from wide to faster. So if you're using your bow, this is wide. Now I'm going to speed it up. Even more. So you have a range of very, almost too slow to much faster. When I go to, at certain points, I move my thumb down a little bit and vibrate. Instead of having it up, like when we're doing these exercises, you can have your thumb in your normal position. When I actually vibrate, I bring my thumb down a little bit, and it helps me push up with the thumb as I'm pushing down with the finger. So it gives you a little more support. So you can adjust your thumb. So play around a little bit with those 2 motions, and then mix them together and see what kind of a sound really appeals to you. I guess I tend to, when I'm playing something very slow, my vibrato gets a little slower. When I'm playing something that has more excitement to it, I tend to shorten it and make it faster. So it's a lot of choice, you know, that you have available to you. So those are some technical things about playing the viola that I think are worthy of talking about, because some of them are a little bit different than violin because of the nature of this instrument, and to really pull that rich sound out of the instrument, I think some of these things will be helpful.